Welcome back to Pop Culture Graveyard. I am Hollis James. With me, as always, is Dave Horowitz. Hello, Dave.
Hello there.
SHOCKtober continues.
SHOCKtober.
SHOCKtober. We're continuing SHOCKtober with 1984's A Nightmare on Elm Street, written and directed by Wes Craven. You like Wes Craven, don't you, Dave?
I like Nightmare on Elm Street.
I'd wager you like Scream as well.
Oh, I did like Scream, yes.
Boom,
yeah.
You love Wes Craven. Anyone else asks you, you're a big Wes Craven guy. The basic plot of this movie, correct me if I'm wrong, is a group of teenagers are terrorized in their dreams by Freddy Krueger, a very scary character, who somehow has the ability to not only harm them, but kill them in their dreams. And that's pretty much it. Without getting into the entire plot of the movie, that's what sets this apart as a franchise, right? It's supernatural slasher nature.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to add, I think I would add, because there's this guy, he is scary. He can enter dreams and kill young people there. And he's doing it out of revenge.
Right. It is really a revenge flick from the other side of the aisle than we usually see revenge flicks. Usually we see like good people avenging something done to them or to their loved ones. And in this case, it's totally reversed. It's a bizarro world version, is it not?
It kind of is, because his vengeance. He's like, I will get vengeance upon those who brutally murdered this child predator.
So I want to ask you what you think of this film, but very quickly, here's my feeling. This movie has always kept me at arm's length. And after rewatching it for this episode, I think I know why. For someone who loves horror flicks and slasher flicks, it feels like a cheat. It is the Kobayashi Maru of horror flicks. There's no rules that apply. There's no logic that applies. Something that happened earlier can't help you later. And in the end, they just undo everything. So I'm not one of those people that enjoys being on unsteady ground with a fright flick. Did you enjoy the film? And have you for a long time?
I will tell you why I enjoyed it, but first I'll tell you why I agree with you. And I've mentioned in other episodes of Pop Culture Graveyard that I don't love magic. And for that same reason, I don't love the dream world. I don't like being able to wave a wand to solve a problem. And I can just see the writers go, well, it's a dream. It's like, well, how does he get his hat back? He doesn't have to. It's a dream. Well, how is she suddenly? It's a dream.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that all seems very convenient.
I don't like films that make me feel like a studio exec, like some suit that's like, but wait a minute, hang on, what are you doing? I need something to hang my Freddy hat on.
The dream, though, it's just this carte blanche to do whatever you want because it's in a dream. None of the questions have to be answered. It's like, oh, well, if she has his glove knife, then why does he have? It's like, unlimited glove knives. Like, it's a dream. Yeah. But that said, I like Nightmare on Elm Street because, well, I like that it's fantastical and therefore not really about a mass murderer, which exists in real life, and I don't need extra ones to be made up and put in front of me, unless I'm doing it for a podcast. But I like that it's fantastical. And I like that there's this sort of, it has a set of rules to it that the other ones don't have, which is if you fall asleep, this guy can get you. In fact, I think they don't use that enough. There's some coffee and Red Bull, or not Red Bull.
And NoDoz.
NoDoz, classic NoDoz.
No, that's brilliant. That is the brilliant
That's the best part of this film.
It's such a great hook. And while we're going to talk characters later.
They sleep on it, though.
Literally and figuratively. Let me ask you, though, I have to jump ahead for a second. Why the fuck can't Johnny Depp's 17-year-old character stay awake? He falls asleep midday. He falls asleep before midnight. I remember being 17. You could not get me to bed. I could be up for days if I wanted. This guy is like catatonic through half the movie. Yeah. What is that about?
17, you can't get me out of bed. But once you do, I'm up for 36 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
it makes no sense other than, We need him to fall asleep for the movie to work and for the scene to work.
Mm,
But oh
yeah,
my God,
yeah, it gets annoying.
it
Uh,
gets annoying.
yeah, but there,
I had to
I
throw
like.
a hole in the script for you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, there's always going to be one minimum, but he seemed that's kind of his bag. I mean, what is Johnny Depp's like bubble bath, glass of champagne? Not like it's in bed with a small TV on his lap,
And headphones
headphones.
and
Yeah,
records playing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a weird little scene, but I
Yeah.
kind of liked that. I liked him in his bed with
Ah,
all of his accoutrement.
I'll tell you something
Um,
that's cool is, and you especially get this in slasher flicks or horror flicks in general. It's such a proving ground for actors that there's usually one or two actors in every slasher film who became somebody of note later in their career. And from jump, Johnny Depp, he's got all the things you can't teach. He looks like he was genetically perfected in a lab. He's so utterly watchable. He gives you interesting line readings. It's clear he's going to be a star. And the same is
mhm.
true of him in his little bit part in Platoon. The same is true of like Brad Pitt in his first roles. It's so clear Johnny Depp is going to be a star when you see him in this film.
And it's so clear the opposite is true of his co-male star.
Yeah,
What's
Ray,
his
the guy who
name?
played Ray.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Ray is so obviously not going to be famous.
he's so interchangeable with so many actors
Yeah.
of that era, Isai Morales and Lou Diamond Phillips. Like just kind of like give me a guy who's good looking, but not too good looking. Give me a guy who's creepy, but not too creepy. He's got that Richard Ramirez kind of Night Stalker vibe to him, but then at the same time, he's like this guy who cries for his girlfriend. He's still just a kid, like,
Yeah, yeah. He's
and
likable.
he's
He's
likable.
yeah, he's likable.
I think we got to start. We should start at the beginning. I jumped because of Johnny. I jump streeted because of Johnny.
Who was that guy Johnny Depp played alongside in 21 Jump Street? Greco.
Richard Grieco, who could have played
Yeah.
Ray in this.
Yeah, that's what
I would have died to see.
that's what I mean.
Ah, um. So,
I was waiting for you to go, like the Richard Grieco types.
oh yeah, totally. So much like Halloween and Friday the 13th, this franchise begins with a legend of sorts. We're in the present day, but there's a backstory that informs everything. Because Freddy Krueger was a child killer in the neighborhood. He got off on a technicality. All of the parents in the neighborhood banded together to kill Freddy in his lair, his like boiler room. They burned him alive with gasoline. And all these years later, he has come back to wreak havoc and to claim the lives of all the children of the parents in this neighborhood. So, in that way, it's giving us a brand new origin story, a brand new killer. It's also giving us a little of that kind of legend magic that Friday the 13th and Halloween had. There seemed to be a definite formula by 1984 if you want to build the perfect franchise. I really loved the opening. We open on Freddy building his claws while the credits run. And as a
Yeah.
fan of Mythbusters, you must love this because it's
It
like
was
Adam Savage's shop.
it was pretty good shop shots. Yeah. Yeah, it was. Yeah, the metal bending
Ah,
and yeah, and putting pins in. And as someone who actually made or attempted to make a pretty poor pair of Freddy gloves one Halloween,
mm.
using copper tubing. I made the joints that fit on each finger. I don't think I ever got to the point of actually finishing them. But yeah, the shop shots, they're absolutely reminiscent of Tested and Adam Savage. And they're good. It's a good opener. I'm not sure. Once again, you got this great set of rules. You've set up this situation. He
Yeah.
doesn't need to build claws. He just needs to conjure them, like the way he
Well,
conjures everything.
no. I think it's a flashback. I think we're seeing Freddy in his prime during that building of the gloves. We're seeing the
Ah,
child predator building his glove.
unburned hands too.
Yes. And
Yeah, yeah.
also if you think about it, like he does this in the nightmares, but also I think he loves scaring the children he gets energy from that before he kills them. And so I think
Mhm.
building of the glove is part of that too. It's
Oh, yeah,
effective,
good point, good
but he
point.
can also terrorize them with it before he finally kills them. And likewise, I assume those young girls jumping rope in the kind of old-timey white dresses, I think they're a
Singing.
flashback too. Yeah. I think they're ghostly apparitions who are singing the Freddy song.
Mhm.
1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your door.
But
Um,
is it Freddy's coming or is it Freddy's? Because it sounds like 1, 2, Fred is gonna get you.
oh, I
Fred
don't.
is.
I thought it was
The
Freddy's.
credits list him as Fred Krueger.
Yeah, well, that's please. My dad is Freddy. I'm just Fred. Yeah.
I part of me wonders if that song is 1, 2, Fred is gonna get you. There'd be no way to know because the English language takes that and makes Freddy's
Well,
gonna
there
get
is a way
you, Fred is,
to know. I'll go back and watch with the captions on.
but that only means the caption person decided.
Yeah, that's true. But then we have
Yeah.
a majority. We have a
Oh,
tiebreaker.
and I can tell you that the captions do say
uh,
Freddy. The captions say
oh,
Freddy.
okay then.
Yeah, I checked. I
Oh,
checked.
you son of a.
Uh, I wanna go back to
Um,
something you said.
yeah.
You mentioned that Freddy follows the formula that we've talked about in other films, which is you start way before, establish why, and then you
Hmm.
jump to the present. But I'll say this, many movies have tried that, but I feel like Freddy was the third one to catch. And just as far as like me as a human being, if I was suddenly asked to give a TED talk on horror films, I'd be screwed. But I would probably start with Halloween and say the next thing to pull it off was Friday the 13th, and that the next one to pull it off, to become this franchise, to have a named serial killer that you can say Jason, Michael Myers, Freddy. Freddy was the next one. Freddy was the next guy, like in the pantheon.
It's
Am
the
I
big
missing?
three.
That was the big three. That's the first big three, or am I missing something, or am I wrong?
No, I think there were films that I wasn't into, but I
I
know got big, like Hellraiser. That was after Freddy by a decent amount, not with like icons.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but we've talked about this. Freddy starts as a monster, but a lot of these guys become monsters because of the franchisement, like
yeah.
almost because it's like, oh wow, that was really good. People really liked it. It's like bring him back. Like, well, now
We
he's not
killed him.
actually. If we bring him
Yeah,
back, he's not really human. That's fine.
right,
Bring him back anyway.
right,
We'll make him superhuman. In fact, that's better.
right.
Like I
Yeah,
said, you become one of these guys through box office success.
yeah. I mean, the tail is wagging the dog in a lot of these productions.
That's basically what I mean. Yeah,
Yeah,
the tale is, what makes this type of murderer?
yeah,
The box office success makes this type of
yeah.
murderer.
The
Yeah,
tail is wagging the machete,
yeah.
if you would. So let's talk about the actual film here. The first girl we see, her name is Tina. She's played by an actress, Amanda Weiss or Amanda Wiss. You may
Huh.
remember the girl terrorized by Freddy in the opening sequence as the actress you saw dating Judge Reinhold's character in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And I like to think that this is what she gets for breaking up with Brad Hamilton at the beginning of senior year.
It's a
She
harsh move.
well, she's kind of a fake out too because they bill her in the beginning. We know that she's terrorized by night terrors, Freddy, and we kind of are sold a bill of goods that this is our girl. This is our final girl. This is our lead girl.
And that's using our slasher flick skills that we've learned over the last 10 years.
Right.
We're like,
It
okay, I got you.
yeah, it lulled us
She's
into
the I gotta
thinking.
figure this out girl. Yeah.
Exactly. And then she is, of course, taken from us, and we realize that Nancy is the lead, played by Heather Langenkamp, who I used to love on Give Me a Break, the Nell Carter sitcom. I don't know if you
I
go there,
remember the
Dave.
sitcom. I
There you go.
remember it, of
I'll
course.
take
Of
it.
course.
I'll take it. It had so many different kids on that, but I always thought she had something special. And she is, and I always thought she was cute, but she is beautiful in this movie. I was really like, oh my God, why haven't I seen her in everything? Like, I would have loved to have seen more of her in other pictures. Anyway, so her boyfriend is Johnny Depp, dressed in an outfit from the Terminal Preppy collection. He's not the Johnny Depp you know today, the kind of Keith Richards clone.
I will jump in and say
Yeah.
I've complained before about how IMDb uses current pic. Like, I feel like if you're on the movie, the Freddy Krueger movie, then the actors should be pictures of them from the movie. So
Ah,
I see this picture of Johnny Depp, looks like Keith Richards' mom,
oh my God.
and I'm like,
That's so
oh, this
good.
there's never been a better example of how far you can get
Oh, I have to see that.
from the person you played. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for IMDb to pick a default pick for some people because they have many eras. So in one of Freddy's chases, he has the super long arms. Do you remember that one? That is
That
my
that's
favorite visual.
that's one of the things that stuck with me from when I saw it as a youngin'.
And
When I
practical effects, which we love.
Yeah, practical effects, especially in this type of movie. The second those arms started stretching, I went, "Oh yeah, I remember this." There was
Yep.
plenty I didn't remember at all. I was like, "Wow, did I
Right.
really see this? I don't remember any of it." Those arms came out, and I went, "Oh yeah."
I don't know what your feeling is on John Saxon, who plays the detective. He was also in the Bruce Lee flick,
Yeah,
uh,
Enter the
Enter
Dragon.
the Dragon.
Yeah.
And I love John Saxon and everything because he only made like B pictures. He's actually in one of my all-time favorite horror movies. That is a mashup of genres. It's Black Christmas. He plays a police detective in that too. Great little flick, and he's good in it. But he's great here as the lead girl's father slash detective in charge of these murder cases. You and I have not picked a quote for this. You
Oh,
and I
right,
have
we
not
haven't.
picked a quote for this episode yet. It's got to be a Freddie quote, probably, but it doesn't have to be. But one of my favorite quotes from this movie, Deep Cut, they're looking for Rod, the boyfriend, because he's a suspect in the murder of Tina. And one of the deputy cops says, he's a musician type, almost as if, oh, he must be a murderer. I just love that, like in this little town, he's a musician type, puts him with like serial killers and, So anyway, that's my favorite deep cut line in
Yeah,
this
yeah.
entire movie. Oh, Nancy's mom, she's in one of my all time favorite Altman films, Nashville. And
She's a strange-looking woman.
she's a strange looking woman, and she has always been a strange actress. Like, maybe strange is unkind. She's always been an offbeat actress,
I don't
and
mean
that's
any of that. I don't mean that in a bad way.
yeah. I really liked her performance in this. She gives you interesting stuff as an actress, and she plays her mom in this, who has like a drinking problem, so she's playing that as well, and also she's trying to keep her daughter safe, so she like puts bars on the windows and barricades the house, and she's a really interesting mom. Usually the moms are just the straight characters, like Johnny Depp's parents in this play it totally straight. So yeah, Wes Craven, really good, interesting casting in this movie.
Her mom was very peculiar. It almost reminds me she could be a character in the John Cusack movie with the dancing hamburger.
Better
No,
Off
not
Dead.
Better Off Dead. She could be a parent in Better Off Dead. Like, oh
Mm,
wow, you are one weird lady.
yeah,
Um,
Kim Darby
oh,
played the mother in Better Off Dead, and she's another offbeat actress.
okay, see,
So
yeah,
yeah, you're absolutely
the
right.
connection is real.
Yeah, it is.
Speaking of parents, you know that thing where in sci-fi movies someone gets something on their hand and it
Like the
tingles.
Blob, or yeah.
Yeah, and then they rub it a little, and then someone goes, "What's going on over there?" And they go, "Oh, nothing," or they hide it. This young lady is describing Fred Krueger, the man that they co-murdered.
Hmm.
She's describing his sweater, his weapon, his hat, his hints to how he died by being burned alive,
Yeah,
and all they're giving anyone is side eye, like,
yeah,
sounds like Freddy Krueger. Everyone's life is on the line,
yeah.
or
The
your daughter is going crazy, but like, say
the
something.
amount of time it takes the adults, the parents who know what's going on, to say anything is crazy. Even if it's like to shut them down early on, like, okay, this is crazy. Did you read an old newspaper article, or did you talk to old
Right,
man
right.
Grady down the road
Exactly.
and he told you about,
This is too on the nose.
yeah, say
Yeah,
something.
Right. Did you talk to that old garbage man? Exactly.
Yeah.
That's something.
We needed
But
an old garbage man in this movie. That's all you got to do. Get a harbinger. Bring back what's
yeah,
his name from Friday the 13th.
you're doomed.
Yeah.
You're all doomed.
Was
Um,
Fred Krueger what did it?
it occurs to me that maybe one of the things these movies like to do is make the audience go, "Come on, come on!"
Yeah.
Like, maybe there's an intentional, like a cop going like, "She's smashing out all the windows and screaming bloody murder.
Yeah. Maybe I better go get
Maybe
her
I'll
dad.
better ask her dad to come
And
take a look."
and this is after her dad.
Maybe.
And this right. And this is
Let
after her dad asked the cop specifically, look for anything out of the ordinary. Look for
right.
something unusual. And he's like, everything's
One window.
fine. But I mean, that's an old trope. You can't believe the woman when she's in danger, or else the rest of the film doesn't work. You can't
Mhm.
believe that there's actually something in the basement. You're just like, oh, you're full of hooey. So yeah, this is not a hashtag believe all women situation in the least. Oh, just a funny moment I have to call out. I don't know if you noticed this, but when Nancy is in school and she's in the back row and she's in class and the teacher's teaching, I could not take my eyes off of the 50-year-old extra in front of her playing a high school student. He's had this
Mm.
big afro and glasses, and he looked a little like the Atlanta child murderer. But is it that hard to get young extras in films?
Yeah, yeah, that whole classroom is a menagerie.
It was like on Happy Days where you're just looking at like 20 somethings just being like, are you really at the soda shop right now? It just struck me funny. Another horror connection, the teacher in that scene winds up being the clairvoyant in the Insidious franchise. I don't know if you like those films.
Never heard of it.
Oh, are you kidding me? Oh, you're
I
sleeping on Insidious?
just not a horror guy.
Oh, oh, well, then it's a badge of honor that you like this film, that this film kind of did something for you.
It's a combination of timing. I saw it in the Galleria Mall in White Plains.
Oof.
I saw it in the theater. Probably saw it more than once. When you used to just go to the movies because
The
it
only
was a
thing to
room where
do.
they turned the lights off.
Yeah.
Whether you wanted to hang out with your friends or make
Right.
out with your girlfriend or
Right.
whatever. You would go see movies. I saw The Beastmaster like 6 times because it was there.
Okay. So you don't have a Mark Singer fixation. You
No,
just
I'm a ferret
yeah,
guy.
you're a
Um,
ferret aficionado.
but the timing, like the age I was, the mall I was hanging out with had it for an extra long time. I think my friends had just started convincing me to go to those movies. And I would go and I would grip the seat handles and make it through because I wanted to, hang out. And it was fine the second time. I hated jump scares.
There's a few.
Yeah. And Freddy Krueger is good he scares people up front. Like he's scary enough that he doesn't need to jump out of a corner
Yeah.
to scare you.
My favorite scare in the entire movie, although there are more like explosive scares. My favorite one is super creepy. She's in the bathtub and the hand comes up between her legs with the
Yeah.
claws on it.
That's heavy.
It's so heavy and it's so great. And Wes Craven, who later would show you just how much of a sense of humor he has in Scream, he he gets a laugh there because the mom knocks on the door and the hand is like, oops. And it just
Yeah.
goes down almost like like what? He's got ears on the hand now? Like
Right.
it's kind of crazy. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just love
That's
that.
very true. Yeah. And it's that psycho thing that I think what's his name was using to his advantage. Who made Psycho?
Hitchcock.
He's a pretty famous guy, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
Hitchcock.
he's
He made a couple
known
horror
by a few.
movies.
Yeah, one or
Yeah.
two.
Yeah. It's that we are very vulnerable in the shower and the bathtub.
Right.
Right. You got nothing. You got nothing. Maybe you get your hands on a heavy bottle of shampoo
Right.
and give them a shot with that. But for the most part, you have no protection. You're
Hmm.
totally exposed. Even the embarrassment adds to the fear.
Yeah, I love bathroom scenes. There's one in Dress to Kill, the Brian De Palma film that I love. But I think my favorite bathroom tension scene is in a flick called Defiance with Jan Michael Vincent. He plays a guy who's like a longshoreman or something, or a merchant marine. And he moved into this terrible neighborhood that's like a war zone with all these gangs. And he starts to make some noise, like he hits somebody or something, or he stands up for someone. And then there's a scene, he takes a shower. He's done with the shower. He pulls the shower curtain back, and there's like 20 gang members just standing in his bathroom, fully dressed. He's
Hardly
naked.
enough room to move.
Oh, and they've got chains and they've got knives and it's only, it winds up to give them like a warning or something. But for years, I had that dream in my head. I'm showering, and then the fucking Latin kings are standing there when I pull the. Oh, terrifying. Anyway.
Wonderful. Down the road, we'll do an all bathroom, because there's we're doing all bathroom episode. There's some there's some great bathroom stuff out there.
Yeah, bathrooms sell houses, and they also sell movie franchises.
Yeah, they do.
We talked about this on a Nightmare Before Christmas episode. You are one of those guys that doesn't get taken out of a movie when you hear a voice or you see an actor from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I do. And yet again, when I saw the doctor who was like administering the sleep study, I was like, he played Carvelli on Welcome Back, Kotter. And
oh my God.
And he played the guy with the basement in Zodiac, like the creepy guy who had the basement, the Jake Gyllenhaal. And it's like, I don't know why I can't just lay in the cut. Yeah, help me.
I can make you feel a little better. You actually a little bit misunderstand where I'm at on this. I don't recognize him, and then it doesn't take me out of the movie. I simply don't recognize him. In Nightmare on Elm Street, I knew that Johnny Depp was going to be in it. I immediately met the young people and was like, I guess that one's Johnny Depp.
Oh, wow.
He looked nothing like Johnny Depp to me. I was
That's true.
I guess that one's Johnny Depp. And then I pretty much let that go. And then I watched the whole movie, and the guy from Enter the Dragon was the only next person that caught my attention. I go, oh, I know that guy. He always plays these guys.
Yeah.
Hard-nosed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what hard-nosed means, but that's what it is.
He's a sexy Michael Ironside. I don't even know. See, even that reference is ridiculous. I don't know why
that's
I can't.
Ridiculous.
So here's what I'll say. For someone who went into this movie with preconceived notions about how it's a cheat and how I'm not crazy, that there are no rules that you can apply, and that I'm not sure of whether people are actually dead or who did what, I thoroughly enjoyed this film. And even though the ending, again, felt like a cheat, it felt like, well, wait a minute, did that happen? Is someone dreaming? Is the mother dreaming? What is this ending, this dreamlike ending of her getting in the car and the Freddy Krueger sweater kind of ragtop comes down? Like, I wasn't sure of what the ending meant, but I loved it. And after everything he gave us, Wes Craven had to end big, and he did. So I really liked the film. I give it 4 razor claws. What was your thought overall? How did you think you were going to enjoy it before you rewatched, and what was your consensus afterwards?
Yeah, for me, with watching movies that I don't want to watch, which goes for Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, I'm hoping to like it enough to get through it. I expected Nightmare on Elm Street to be the easiest of the scary movies, because I remembered liking the don't fall asleep. I had attributed too much to this great fall asleep, you might die rule. That great. I feel like, it's a great rule that could have been used so much more. There's a great scene where her mother comes in, takes 4 coffee mugs and a coffee machine out of her daughter's room. Yeah. Says goodnight, closes the door. The daughter goes under the bed and comes out with a second coffee machine on with a full pot of coffee in it.
Oh,
yeah,
that's great.
It was great. It was great.
Yeah, this film, they didn't get all the juice out of that berry, and it really would have been great. But at the same time, when you stop and think that Wes Craven was creating all of this on the fly, it's hard coming up with a new angle on these things. And who knows? Maybe the few missteps that we see in the film were concessions he had to make to the studio to get the film made, or were budgetary
Mhm.
constraints, or
Yeah,
were
yeah.
time constraints. You never know what goes behind it, but I wouldn't second guess Wes on that because that is such a great device. It reminded me a little bit of, you remember the horror flick, well, suspense flick, It Follows?
Nope.
It's another one that has a high concept thing. It's like you have sex with somebody, and almost like a sexually transmitted disease, then you're being followed by people. And it's such a cool rule. And the first half of that movie is really killer. And it makes total sense. And you have this paranoid feeling while you're watching it. And then it sort of goes off the rails and it doesn't quite adhere to the rules like it did. But yeah, it is frustrating
It's
when,
disappointing when you have a great set of rules, and
yeah,
and the parts that do fall into those rules feel so good.
yeah.
You know, nodding out or when your head starts to droop, this terrifying guy is going to slice you into little bits,
Hmm.
like 10 times as terrifying as when you're driving.
Right.
It's like incredible. And we
Well,
all know how hard it is to keep ourselves from falling asleep.
yeah. And if you want to fix it too, we're not saying that there's anything, some sort of like Herculean task. All Wes Craven had to do actually is show like that Johnny Depp has been up for 3 days straight trying to
Yeah,
protect his
something.
girlfriend or
Mhm.
something. Just be like day three, give me a countdown or something. Or make it so that, like his parents, did you slip that into Johnny's drink this evening? Oh, yeah, I did. He should sleep like a baby. You know,
Mhm.
Instead, we have a 17-year-old that can't stay awake
Yeah.
for no good reason,
When it's the most important time to stay awake ever in his entire life.
especially when he's
Right.
got a girlfriend who begged him to stay awake and will probably be mad at him or break up with him if he doesn't, let alone die.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, you were talking about the ending. My first thought about the ending was, "That's it?" But then I kinda thought about it, and the Freddy Krueger sweater convertible top closing on the car and then banging on the window, "Oh, no!" Like, it was very, "Freddy is alive and well, and we'll see you next year."
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know that Friday the 13th's ending announces that you're gonna get more. Um,
No,
Halloween
only
certainly doesn't, but
it's,
Freddy does.
yeah, yeah, you're
Nightmare on Elm
right.
Street says, "Stay tuned, kids."
Well, let's be fair. Friday the 13th and Halloween, when they did their thing, nobody was thinking franchise. And in fact, there weren't any horror franchises as such. So by the time Nightmare on Elm Street got rolling, 1984, the horror sequel was a very real thing. It
Wes
made
Craven
sense.
may have been the first guy to have that advantage,
Right.
or the first guy to have that advantage and be able to make it work. I bet a bunch of people are like, "I'm gonna make the next Halloween. I'm gonna make the next Friday the 13th." I like to think that Wes Craven did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can be proud to be the person who made Nightmare on Elm Street and the person who made Scream is kind of perfect. It shows the ability to make that and the ability to see what it is and make this meta film about those films.
Here's something else that shows the genius of Wes Craven. He went somewhere no one else went, not just in the supernatural slasher genre, which he may have very well invented with this film, but also Jason in Friday the 13th starts out as a boy who probably was not,
Not a bad
well,
guy.
yeah, he was just a
Not a bad
boy who
guy.
had problems, but he was just a boy who died, and then he comes back and hijinks ensue. Michael
Right.
Myers was just a boy with mental problems
Mhm.
who was put away, and he came out and he's got his own agenda that's known only to him. Wes Craven was like, okay, what's scarier? You start out with somebody who's scary in real life, a serial
My,
killer.
my killer's experienced.
Yeah, and he's not just a serial killer, he's a child serial killer.
Mm,
And then you give him the power. Did I mention he's also undead? So he can
yeah.
haunt you in your dreams. So Wes Craven tripled down on the formula that was out at the time. And
Okay.
in lots of ways, it's more impressive than what came before it.
Yeah, I'll give you a specific way in which it's more impressive than what came before it. How many people babysat the night they saw Halloween? Maybe 2 or 3. We'll see
Mm,
this movie and then and then I gotta go babysit. Maybe 2 or 3. How many people went to camp the night they saw Friday the 13th? Probably none of them. Maybe a couple of people saw Friday the 13th, went to camp the next day. How many people went to sleep the night they saw Nightmare on Elm Street?
Yeah.
Every single person who saw this movie about a guy who's going to kill you in your dreams had to go to sleep that night.
Yeah. Jaws was like, this is the movie that makes you scared to go in the water. But, summer only comes once a year. Meanwhile, you're right. Every single night, all of us go to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. So absolutely, the day you saw this movie, you slept that night. You entered the realm of that movie that night. Though Jaws did really hurt beach attendants.
Yeah, did with me. There's one thing that I was surprised by. Am I the only one that felt bad, or even beyond that, felt empathy for Freddy Krueger when he was on fire? He's like, oh, no, no. Like, what a pathetic. I know I'm not supposed to, but like, that was how he died. And that was, yeah, just me.
How inconsiderate.
I know.
Yeah, just you. Very much just you.
I don't know if it's the frontier justice or something that was carried out on him.
That's true. It was very frontier justice. It was tarred and feathered and set on fire.
Yeah.
You're feeling sorry for a guy who, while he's on fire, he has the peace of mind to say, oh, wait a minute. I'm on fire. If I can make it upstairs, I can hug her mother to death with my flames.
Oh my God, yeah.
And you're worried about him. That was one heavily wrapped stuntman.
Yeah, he really was. You could tell the face. Yeah.
His arms were like twice as wide, and legs and chest and everything, because he had all this fire protection on. But it was, you know what? Let's take a moment to say one of the longest amounts of time I've seen a guy on fire on screen.
Yeah.
And very on fire. Usually it's the back.
No, they went for it.
This person was engulfed in flames. Very impressive. True genre fans are like, you guys haven't talked about the murders. Talk about the murders.
I know.
The bedroom murder. Who's the one who's murdered with Rod watching? Tina.
Yeah, Tina.
Yeah. I guess upside down, they built an upside down room, but they also used
his perspective.
And then some kind of acrobatic situation to get her in midair. Very convincing. Yeah. Very unique. The blood fountain for Glenn.
I, for one, was, as much as I like Johnny Depp in this, I was glad to see him die, because you can't fucking fall asleep every 5 minutes and deserve to live. And I love that all of his crap, his TV and everything, gets sucked into the bed.
Waffle irons, magazines.
This was the
bad
movie.
News, Hollis. You didn't get to see him die, Hollis.
Well,
you didn't. He was somewhere beneath the mattress. I thought that was a bit of like, I was waiting for pieces of him to come out, or the head. Usually they do a head. Sometimes they'll roll a head around, keep it moving so it doesn't. So it's not in focus.
I like the death of Rod in the jail, where like his little blanket comes
the creeping vine blanket. It was good. Yeah. It was a particularly good death. The blanket was, it's pretty much fishing line trick, various pieces of fishing line or whatever. But it has a couple things going for it. It was snake-like, it was spooky, it was scary. You immediately were like, oh, I know what's happening. Mm-hmm. And you were like, oh no, they're going to think he hung himself.
Right.
Like from the moment the thing starts to slither around his neck, you start to worry like, oh, it's going to be such a believable suicide. Mm-hmm. That's a really good murder right there.
Yeah, it is. And now I know how all those suicides in prison actually happen.
They're all Krueger related.
I thought people actually killed themselves sometimes in prison, but apparently not. So we should wrap up. I'm trying to think, in lots of ways, I liked this more than Friday the 13th, but in other ways, it felt slighter in a weird way. And I don't know why, because there was more going on. It was more 80s. It's brighter. The special effects are better. It goes more places. I don't know if it's just that Friday the 13th is a more comfortable watch, or I like being in the 70s more, even though it was, 80, it's still very much a 70s film. Do you know a little of what I'm trying to get at?
Well, first of all, the 70s go to about 82.
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah, and they started in about 73. Uh, a lot of people don't know that about the
It's
70s.
true.
70s did
Every
not
decade.
adhere to the actual number.
No, not at all.
I might chalk it up to like cinematography, which I'm not really a film guy, but when I picture those sweeping shots of the lake, it's bigger. Nightmare on Elm Street goes places, but the places are always right through a door. The whole movie sort of happens within 500 yards of itself.
Yeah, it feels very
There's
much like a film set at all times.
Yeah, it does. It's small that way. And Friday the 13th is big. You drive down a long winding road to the restaurant, drive up a long winding road from the corner store, sweeping shots of a pretty big lake. It's much more beautiful. Definitely, if I had to watch one with the volume off, I would watch Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Like prettier.
Yeah, it is placid. So in closing, have you seen or do you plan to see any of the Freddy Krueger sequels?
I've never seen a Freddy Krueger sequel. I was this many days old today when I found out that Wes Craven did Scream.
That's worth knowing.
Yeah. So Scream, having seen Scream and loving it, that's the closest I'm ever going to come to seeing another Freddy movie.
Are you using the word Freddy like Wes Craven?
It's the closest I'm going to come to seeing another Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay, it's just sharing a director with it, is what you're saying.
That's right.
Well, I'll tell you, I remember I've seen some of the Freddy films a long time ago. Like I said, it wasn't my favorite franchise back in the day, but I remember Dream Warriors being really good. I don't know if that's 3 or 4. I think it's 3, but the Dream Warriors sequel was fun. I liked the cast in that. It was like a cool sequel. But by and large, I haven't seen a lot of the sequels. Please let us know what sequels we're missing out on, or that I'm missing out on. Dave will not see any of this.
I will not. And I'll add something. I never saw Dream Warriors. I heard Dream Warriors. Not a bad number. Dream Warrior.
Who did that?
Had a very popular metal song, which was Dokken.
Oh, Rockin' with Dokken.
Rockin' with Dokken, baby.
Wow.
And
yeah,
to contrast, the original Nightmare on Elm Street, I don't even remember what it was. There's a song at the end that's attempting to be a popular rock song, and it is terrible. It is absolutely terrible. I'm so glad that they later had Dream Warriors to be able to brag about.
You think it's easy to get music at the end of a film when you've got like $500 in the budget? I'm sure that whatever music he got on the cheap. So I kind of understand that.
I will not watch it.
Oh,
you can't make me.
All right.
Maybe
don't
next
fall
year.
asleep,
No.
motherfucker. Don't fall asleep. SHOCKtober, up and running, still firing on all cylinders. You enjoying it?
Rocking with Dokken. 3 down, 1 to go.
3 down, 1 to go.
Another town and 1 more show.
You're going to play some metal music after this episode, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm going to put on some Dokken. Maybe some rap.
Awesome. Good job, pal.
Thanks for having me.
All right, man. See you.
Hollis and Dave would like to thank you for enjoying Pop Culture Graveyard.